We had a lot to cover and only a little time to cover it. The family farm tax grab, the general licences, rural payments, the lead ammo ban, the trophy imports ban, trail hunting. We had a gotcha moment with trophy imports. I put two heads from the same antelope on the stage, one real, one a replica. DEFRA is in charge of banning the import of that real one.
Which of those are you going to ban? One on the left, one on the right?
I'm not going to go there. I'll let you tell me. Which one is it?
I've got to look. It's the one on the right is the replica, and it's cheaper than the one on the left, because the one on the left has to come with a veterinary certificate to prove it's not going to suddenly start working as a civil servant somewhere.
Among a long list of issues to cover and people to cover it, I had Tory MP Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown on stage and asked him to explain the politics behind the government's commitment to ban trophy imports.
They're against somehow the shooting of these large trophy animals, and they don't understand the effect of what they're doing. And just to be very clear what they are doing, they are depriving some pretty poor countries like Tanzania of really important income, which they use very well to actually protect their wildlife.
Then we came to the family farm tax. Greg Smith MP gave me an example of one of his constituents who face the end of their farm thanks to the tax that Daniel has to go out and promote.
The Seed family explained to me how they've done the maths. If they have to sell land to pay an inheritance tax bill that could come within the next few years, they're looking at selling nearly a third of the farm to meet that. A third. It's a 500-acre arable farm. Sell a third of it, it's not viable.
It's not going to be viable.
Not viable at all. Or if they borrow the money, with current presumptions on BPS and SFI and so on current presumptions, it would take them 40 years to pay that debt back.
Daniel did not deny that this tax would ruin farmers, but he argued that the country needs the money. So I had to use a different argument. I put some facts to Daniel from his own department's annual report, and he seemed genuinely surprised.
DEFRA under the Tories was spending, 380 million in 2022-2023, 350 million in the last figures on buying family farms.
I think you're going to need to explain it when you say buying family farms. In what sense?
In the DEFRA report, it says that it's the only department in government that's buying land at the moment, or net buying land at the moment.
I even gave him the opportunity to attack the Tories. It was a Boris Johnson government policy, an open goal, but he looked like he hadn't been briefed. He dodged the question.
Well, there's a number of different things in there. I mean, obviously the money that is raised by the Treasury goes to the Treasury, and the Treasury will decide how that is allocated across government. DEFRA spending is a separate issue. But
I pushed it again.
You appear to be nationalising farms.
Well, I really don't accept that point, that we're in any way doing that.
Here's what farmer and former MP Neil Parish reckons is really going on.
Once a lot of the land becomes parts of institutions, much more easy for the government to then control it, much more easy to change policy, much more easy for dear old Ed Miliband to have his new Jerusalem.
It gets worse, as Shadow DEFRA Minister Robbie Moore MP tells me.
The Labour government are legislating right now through the Planning and Infrastructure Bill to give Natural England compulsory purchase power to acquire land, not at market value, but at agricultural value. Literally legislating to disregard that hope value between market value and agricultural value, giving an arm's length body even more power. Now, I am not supportive of that at all, and I think that's got to be robustly called out.
DEFRA's policy of buying farmland allowed me to question Daniel on why the taxpayer owns around £4 billion worth of forestry in Forestry England and the other Forestry Commission agencies that come under DEFRA, and why we can't sell that off and pay for at least 8 years of family farm tax, because we don't need it. It doesn't underpin sterling, we don't make wooden ships, and we don't make pit props.
Well, the Treasury makes tax decisions in general, and of course there's dialogue between departments, but in the end that's a Treasury decision. I'm a member of the government and I stand with the government, and it seems to me when you look in the round across the whole economy, lots of people have had to take a hit. I mean, frankly, employers in general, it's been a hard year.
But you've got the money.
Well, you say you got the money, but equally just selling stuff off. I'm afraid we've seen this in the past. You just keep selling off resources. That's not really a long-term plan.
This goes back to the original point. Is your long-term plan for the government to own all the land? Is that the idea?
No, I don't think it's about that. I think what it's about here is the Treasury looking around, looking at things where not only can money be raised, but is also a problem to be addressed. I would say one of the biggest problems we've got in farming at the moment is that it's very hard for young people to get into farming, really difficult. And that's partly because, and it's an unintended consequence of the previous system, the advice to people was basically to farm till you drop.
So there you are. Family farm tax is partly about social engineering. Robbie gives a rundown on what we can do to stop it.
Well, so time is running out. So this is a piece of legislation that has effectively been talked about since October last year, but in essence presented now in its in the detail just last week. It will be debated in the House of Commons. We not got the right exact timings yet, but October, November time is when we think it will be debated. Once that's debated and voted through, that's it. It's happening in April 26. Cliff edge will happen and that IHT liability will be exposed. I would advocate all individuals to tell their story as strongly as they can.
Tell it.
The media,
not write it. Tell it.
Tell it. The media, when I've been doing many media rounds and interviews, they want to hear, they want to engage, they want to be able to talk about the catastrophic damaging implications this will have, not only on those businesses, but the whole supply chain within the rural economy.
Now, lead shot, this stuff, dominated my conversations in the Game Fair Theatre. We will bring you coverage in future episodes. I felt there was no point challenging Daniel on the science or even the enforcement. I tried to get him on bigger picture stuff. He characterised DEFRA's appalling record at dumping last-minute rules on shooters and farmers as not surprises, but he admits they have been sudden. He blamed DEFRA's failure to replace the countryside stewardship schemes on outdated computer systems. I ended our chat by asking him if he were willing to fight for the countryside in government.
We get a feeling that you're being dumped on by the other departments. You've been given lead shot to ban. I know you can make the case for little birds, but it is a health issue. That's the reason to ban lead shot. You've been given the issue of trophy imports. That's a Foreign Office matter. I mean, you're being dumped on by the Foreign Office there as well. Farm inheritance tax, you've been dumped on by the Treasury. I think I want to hear you say, no, we stand up to these people in government. My colleagues are not as bad as you're making out.
It's really funny. I was asked exactly his question by Simon Hoare in the Welsh Select Committee the other day. He said, in the past, when we went into the Treasury, there was blood on the floor. And
That's what we want to see.
And I said, there are a number of different ways of doing politics. I quite like my colleagues. And my style of politics does not end up with blood on the floor. It actually ends up with a good outcome for the department. I know which one I'd choose, and I will do my politics differently. That's what I was elected to do.
We had GWCT Chairman Sir Jim Pace on stage, who once had Daniel's job in government under the Tories.
Well, he won't thank me for saying so, but I think he's in a very difficult position. He, as you implied in one of your questions, he's having to defend policies that I very much doubt he personally believes in, but I've been there, I've had to defend the indefensible. That's the nature of being a minister in the government. You're stuck with it if you want to remain a minister and have the influence that you think you can have, which you hope will overall be good for whatever world you're in.
I think Daniel, like you say, is a decent enough guy, but I don't think he holds sort of any sway naturally he's not in the cabinet, and I don't think he has any sway across anything that's done by Labour. And I'm not even sure that Labour have got a policy on farming and the rural economy generally. And then, of course, they stupidly took the Treasury idea. I was talking to George Eustace a few weeks ago, and he said that the Treasury for some time had wanted to tax farms and had offered it to our chancellors sort of several times. We decided it was more trouble than it was worth, and it would also upset everybody.
All of these chats are available as individual podcasts, links below. Daniel is a precious piece of china. He is the only DEFRA minister we in the world of field sports get to see. That's millions of people who enjoy hunting and shooting. His colleagues appear to be terrified of us. We can use him, but we mustn't drop him.